It's Halloween season. You know what that means. Time for all sorts of spooky fun and stories of dead things coming back to life to haunt you. Like this pixel on my brand new camera. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Sounds Good Makes Sense, a discussion show for the World of Warcraft player and so on. My name is Devilor, and I have had it with y'all today. If you haven't come across this news yet, it's been exploding all over the internet. Blizzard is finally teaming up with Microsoft to release a version of World of Warcraft that you can play on Xbox consoles. They are finally making the port everyone knew was going to happen at some point, and they are porting World of Warcraft to consoles. And this has, of course, brought on a whole bunch of extra speculation, such as if it's going on to Xbox, are they also going to make a PlayStation and a Nintendo Switch port? Are they going to, does this mean that we're going to start having it more appropriate for handhelds and it can be played on handheld devices as well? What does this mean? Is this the real reason that they've been slimming down things inside of WoW, like adding the one button rotation and calling away add-ons and so on? There's all sorts of wild speculation going around, which is hilarious because none of that is actually what's happening. So the article most people have seen at this point is coming from Wowhead, and the article specifically has the headline, World of Warcraft and all PC games. We're just ignoring that part, apparently. World of Warcraft and all PC games coming to next-gen Xbox console per Windows Central. Now, if you actually bother to read the article, it becomes pretty clear that this has absolutely nothing to do whatsoever with a World of Warcraft console port that's actually occurring. And it's nothing, it doesn't even have anything to do with Blizzard in the slightest. If you read the actual article, what is discussed in the article is that the next-gen Xbox console purportedly, due to like insider knowledge and so on that Windows Central has presented, and I don't have any reason to believe that their info is wrong. I'm just saying there hasn't been like an official confirmation of any of this at this point. It's just all coming through Windows Central. And what they're talking about in their original article is essentially that the next Xbox console, the next gen Xbox console, will be able to go into Windows. You'll be able to quit out from the Xbox screen and go into just Windows and use it like a PC. And they listed off a whole bunch of things that then means you'll be able to run on your PC, essentially your PC, on your next gen Xbox. Inside this article, they're talking about being able to play League of Legends and even calling out that you can use a mouse and keyboard because you'll be able to plug that into this next gen Xbox. You'll be able to play a mouse and keyboard game like League of Legends on your Xbox console. They even go as far as to say you can use Microsoft Office and Adobe CC on your next gen Xbox console because the console is just a PC. But of course, no one's actually reacting. Well, some people are, thankfully. There's still some people that actually bother to read articles in 2025, but most people are just reading the headline, and even then they're not reading the full headline. The headline from Wowhead, which I will give them a little bit of shade for this. It is a, I feel, intentionally misleading headline that seems to come across as trying to convince people WoW is finally coming to consoles, when reality is it's the other way around. Consoles are coming to WoW. But anyway, the headline says World of Warcraft and all PC games coming to next-gen Xbox console per Windows Central. And that's as far as they've gotten. And I really need people to understand this. You cannot get your news by reading a headline and letting your imagination fill in the rest of what that news possibly means. You do actually need to read the friggin' articles. So what does this actually mean? Let's break down what the article is actually saying. Again, they're talking about how the next-gen Xbox console will be able to quit out to Windows and then just operate as any PC. You're going to be running Windows. Anything that runs on Windows will run on this console. And we've seen this in a bunch of different hardware already. The Steam Deck, for example, this has the ability to quit out to Steam OS, which is based on Linux. And then that mirrors a lot of things. There's actually a lot of Windows apps that you can just run on the Steam Deck. You can run WoW. You can play WoW on this right now if you wanted to. You can actually do that. You can run the Battle.net app. You can play WoW on your Steam Deck, especially if you use something like the console port add-on. But you can also just plug a mouse and keyboard. I've done that. I've played mouse and keyboard things on the Steam Deck by just plugging one into it. So that's something that can already be done on several consoles. Another one that comes to mind is the Xbox Ally, or the ROG Ally, whichever one you want to call it. This is a Steam Deck-like device that is made by Asus. And it runs Xbox, like the Xbox app natively, but you have the ability to quit out to Windows. And when you quit out to Windows, you can run anything that Windows runs on the ROG Ally. It might not perform as well. Like if you're trying to run like, I don't know, Borderlands 4 or Battlefield 6 or something like that on it, it might not have the hardware to handle it, but it does have the software capabilities to run anything that runs on Windows. This already exists. All this article is saying is that the next Xbox console will also have that functionality. So when it comes to things like, oh, does this mean they're going to port it to PlayStation 2? Does it mean that they're going to port it to the Nintendo Switch? Are they going to make it so that there's now a handheld version of WoW that I can play that has been ported over? Like, Blizzard isn't doing anything here, is the important thing to understand. This is not a Blizzard initiative. Blizzard is not taking WoW to Xbox. Xbox is taking itself to a state where it can just run WoW. And possibly the worst part of this whole massive, we didn't bother to read, so we just misunderstood everything that's going on with this entire article situation, is that the result is it probably means the opposite of what everyone is claiming it means. For a long, long time, people have been blaming basically everything they didn't like in WoW on, oh, they're just doing that so they can port it to console. I remember all the way back during Warlords of Draenor, which, by the way, was over 10 years ago. People were saying, well, they're pruning abilities in Warlords of Draenor so that they can port it to console. Yeah, that didn't happen because that wasn't the purpose, because porting WoW to console has never been a priority. So what this actually means is the consoles have come to WoW. Why would they bother at this point porting WoW to consoles if they don't need to? If the consoles are already running WoW anyway, why would they bother doing anything that makes it run better on consoles? Sure, there's a possibility that at some point in the future, enough people are playing WoW on the new Xbox instead of playing it on a PC that they decide to make some changes for like quality of life fixes or whatever to make it play better on that essentially box of a PC, the PC box at this point. There's a possibility that some changes end up occurring just to try to accommodate those players, but that's not a Blizzard porting WoW to consoles with the intention of trying to rake in console players initiative. That's we have people playing it on this, so maybe we'll do it. The same as like they make it so it plays on Mac, or the same as like how whenever there's all these like accessibility issues and there's all these things that are put into WoW to accommodate people using like alternative controllers and accessibility controllers and stuff like that. That's all that is at that point, is trying to accommodate the players that already exist. They're not taking WoW and porting it over to console to try to get console players to play. And they're certainly not, they even said this, they're certainly not making all these changes that they're making at midnight and so on because, well, this way we can secretly try and sneak in the fact that it's going to come to console. Now, I know I've been away from Blizzard for a while at this point. It's been about 4 years, give or take. Yes, about 4 years. But I know enough about how Blizzard operates, having been there for as long as I had, and I can promise you, if Blizzard intended to take WoW to console, they would say so. The whole reason that they would even consider doing something like that in the first place is to try and draw in new players. And you don't draw in new players by not telling the new players that they can be drawn in. So no, I don't think all of these changes that are happening in Midnight are because Blizzard is planning to port WoW to console, because I don't think Blizzard is planning to port WoW to console. That has been something that people say constantly every time they don't like something or they don't understand something. And I don't know what it is about gamers. We tend to, like, a company will tell us why they're making a change, and we tend to immediately go, nah, it's not that. It's this other thing, this other conspiracy that I've come up with instead. And sometimes sometimes companies definitely don't tell you the whole truth of why they're doing something. Don't get me wrong. Like that absolutely does happen. But you have to consider what is the conspiracy that you are trying to push in this case. And if the conspiracy is because they're secretly going to port WoW to console and it's somehow taken them 12 years, they would say something. They would just say that. There's no reason for them to not say that. And again, the reality is, according to the reports from Windows Central, Blizzard doesn't have to do anything to make their game functional, to make World of Warcraft or any PC. You'll be able to play your whole Steam library on this thing. They don't have to do anything to be able to make it playable on this next gen Xbox console, because the console will just be able to run it. And even if you want to have like a full on like handheld experience, the console port add-on already exists. And in fact, Ian even confirmed in an interview with Annie Fuchsia recently that they are making sure that the console port add-on still works after midnight. They are making sure that that is going to continue to be the case, so that if you want to play that on this today, well, you need one of these, but you can do that. So please, I beg you, I know that begging the internet to be sensible about things and actually read articles is a lost cause, but for my own sanity, please stop jumping at the WoW is coming to consoles every single time anything related to anything happens. It's not happening. It's not happening. Or I guess more accurately, it is happening, but not because of any changes to WoW, right? Like they're just making consoles that work like PCs these days. They're making it so that PC applications can run on consoles without any modification to the PC application, which means that WoW doesn't need a console port. It just needs a PC version. And it turns out it already has a PC port. It came out in 2004. I don't know why this one's really stuck in, like, it's like a stepping on a Lego today is what this sort of set off for me. But I had a whole other topic in mind, by the way, a whole other thing in mind that I wanted to talk about. And I do actually want to talk a bit more about what the Xbox and other console and handhelds, especially, what that all means for the gaming industry and what that means for where things are going to end up for games like World of Warcraft and so on in the future. I do want to talk about all of that at some point. I needed a good old rant today because this is pissing me off. The number of people, please, if you see an article and you go, whoa, that's crazy. Either you can probably hear there's a very loud car outside. I have my windows open. It's cold enough outside that I can have my windows open. If you see an article and you are looking at this article and you go, whoa, that's crazy, I can't believe it. Read the article. We've all got social media brain in 2025. We read 3 words of a headline and assume we know the rest of the story. Stop it. Stop it. Anyway, my smartwatch is yelling at me that I need to get my heart rate down. So I think we're going to wrap that up there. A little bit of a shorter episode, but an important message, I think. Yes, technically WoW is coming to consoles, but only because every single PC game you can think of and other apps as well, like Microsoft Office, is coming to consoles in the next generation, at least according to this article from Windows Central, which again, please actually read that article because they're just reporting that they've gotten some inside sources saying this. And it's also based on some speculation from some recent things that Phil Spencer has said. Actually read the articles. Go do that. Calm yourself down a bit and realize that, yes, you will be getting WoW on consoles eventually, but only because consoles are now being made in a way that they can run WoW, not because WoW is being ported to consoles. And I am so confident in this that, I don't know, I would bet on this. I don't know what I would bet on this. If I end up being wrong on this one, I will make a long video apologizing for how wrong I was in this video, but I don't think I'm wrong on this one. I don't see any reason for Blizzard to bother making a WoW console port if the consoles are being changed to exist in such a way that they don't need to. Like, why would they do that work? That's completely unnecessary. And if you like the idea of playing WoW on a console, just get yourself a console that's like the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck can do it. Get a ROG Ally, get something along. There's so many of these days. I think Lenovo has one as well. There's a bunch of these things these days that they're just basic. This is basically a graphics card with a controller attached to it. That's basically what this is. You can run WoW on those. You can just do that. WoW is even though they've modernized a lot of the graphics, it's still an old enough game that it runs pretty well on limited hardware. You can just do that. You can already have your console WoW. Just get one of those things and get the console port add-on. It's really good. I've used it. Get the console port add-on and there you go. There's your WoW console port. It already exists. And because that already exists, there's no reason for Blizzard to make it again. There's a slight caveat there in that they're kind of doing that with some add-ons in WoW right now, but worst case, they just make a built-in version of the console port add-on that already exists. They might just do that anyway at some point. I could see that sort of thing eventually happening as they just expand their controller support inside of WoW. But I don't think they have any intention of changing the game fundamentally at its core and pissing off all of their current subscribers in the process just to try and pick up some new console players who can already play the game anyway. Okay, I'm going to listen to my watch and we're going to wrap this up. Thank you all so much for watching. We do have other topics in mind that'll be coming up soon. We're going to be talking about the gaming industry a lot more in the near future and what the current situation is for both AAA and indie studios and things that you can potentially do to help out, especially the indie studios, and try to pull the gaming industry out of the pit that it's currently finding itself in. We're probably going to talk some more about, especially once we start learning more a little bit about what this new world is for the next gen Xbox console. As more info comes out on that, we'll probably talk about that some more and what that means. But we're going to wrap it up for today. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. Thank you so much to all my patrons for sticking out. We've had our streamathon that's been going on for a while as well. Thank you, everyone who came out for the streamathon. But if you have not already checked out my Patreon, please do so. That's patreon.com/Devilor. I had other things that I was going to say there. Check out my merch store. That's devilor.com. You can get some cool stuff over there. I think we're going to call it there. Thanks again so much, everyone. I'll see you later.